To do it?
Do it, John.
What if I told you? What if I told you that I don't know how? What if I told you that I don't know how to go live? Would you believe me?
We're live right now. I thought you were gonna do something when we went live.
I don't know how to do that.
All right,
Why
so
would why would
hi,
you give me that power?
hi, listener. This is episode 96 of Unqualified Gamers, a podcast in which neither of us are qualified. I am getting over a viral pharyngitis, so I'm not even really qualified to talk. That's
You
why.
ac- you actually we've been kind of bullshitting for the past what 5 minutes, and you suddenly changed from sounding like a normal human being to sounding like you're dying. Are you dying?
I really didn't sound like a normal human being before. I was getting animated because you were pissing me off, as you were wont to do on this episode of Unqualified Gamers, a video game podcast about video games.
I want I want to know about your life, and I want you to talk for 45 minutes straight
I have very little
about
to
about
say.
your
I
life.
have very little to say to you or anyone in this episode. I'd really rather just kind of get to the thick, girthy meat of this video game podcast. Um, I'm glad that you're so awake right now and animated because I feel like death. My throat is hurt for nearly 7 days.
Mm. I mean,
I
I have no sympathy for you.
I
In
took
fact,
2 consecutive sick days. I have never done that in my adult life. I
I
don't
have
do that.
I have anti-sympathy. What is that? What is
You have
ant?
a no. You have a baby, which is a what do you? What's the nickname? What's that weird thing from World of Warcraft you call
No,
him?
it's not World of Warcraft. He is the plague gnome.
He's a plague, right? The plague
We
gnome.
refer to him as Nurgle,
Right, Nurgle. Right. Okay.
who is the old god of pestilence and decay
All right. So you
from
signed up.
the Warhammer universe.
You signed up.
Everybody knows this.
You signed up to live with a plague gnome. All right. I did not. I didn't sign up for this. I don't get sick like this. I get allergies, then I take Sudafed, then my sore throat turns into a sniffly cough, and then I'm over it in a couple days, and I go to work. This time I was like in pain, and then my boss is like going to like Switzerland for a business trip next week, and she's like, "Well, don't come in if you'll get me sick." So stay at home, and I felt like an asshole staying home, and I hate it. And listen, corporate America, capitalism is not designed to let people take sick days. I don't know if you knew that. Capitalism doesn't care. You're allotted X number of sick days, but like when you take a sick day, everyone hates you. And that's probably not true, but that's how I feel. So I'm gonna go with it.
I certainly wasn't fond of you when you took your 2 consecutive sick days because you put a lot of work on me.
Really.
Hmm.
Name one thing I did to you.
All of those projects that you were working on, I had to take them all over. And I didn't really appreciate that, but you know what? I did because that's what you do in corporate America.
Remember when we used to plan episodes
We
better
don't
than this?
we don't work at the same place though, so it's kind of weird that I took on your projects.
That is weird, and especially that you didn't plan this episode whatsoever. Do you even have a video game to talk about?
No, I thought you were coming with the
I
goods.
will kill you. I will cut you.
I do have a video game to talk
I know
about.
you've been playing a lot of video games. I have not been playing a lot of video games.
It is amazing
Um,
the number of video games that you can play, even when you have a limited amount of time to play them, as I do, when you no longer play World of Warcraft. Can I just say that? Well, like when you no longer play World of Warcraft, it's amazing how much Hearthstone you can play. I'm
oh
sorry, it's
God.
amazing how much other video games that you can play.
Can I give a shout out though, actually, to a video game?
Is it Hearthstone? Because
It,
you should really play that game.
I'll maybe think about downloading it. No, man, Risk of Rain.
Yeah, tell me about that. So I know you don't want to talk much, but I noticed that like all of a sudden, it was probably us recording that our top 5 episodes of or our top 5 video games of last year episode that we recorded last episode. Listener, if you haven't listened to it yet, is episode 95. Cody and I went through our top 5 games that we played in 2014.
No, that
My
was
nu-
episode 94. Episode
uh,
95 was World of Warcraft.
I'm sorry, episode 94, listener. My number one was Risk of Rain, and ever since then, it seems like you and Max and me, and I saw John a bunch. Like everybody's been playing Risk of Rain again, and to be perfectly honest, I'm kind of excited about that because I freaking love that game. So tell me about it. You were playing that game again.
Yeah, over the weekend I was awake kind of early on a Saturday or Sunday. Decided to see if anybody was online, and our friend John in Russia. Well, I won't say our friend, but John in Russia and our friend Max were playing, and they either invited me on Skype or something, and they were playing, and I was like, well, hell yeah, I'll play with y'all. And then our friend, well, okay, again, I use this term loosely, but Ryan got on. That ruined everything. That
Mhm.
ruined literally everything. I mean, he took about an hour to set up, which is pretty much par for the course for
Was he
him.
showering?
Probably. so so Ryan got on, and I think I played one or two games. His character's name was just Fuck in all capital letters, and he didn't know how to move, like literally left or right. I think he's like just so stupid. It's bad. So he was awful, and then I quit playing. But then, like Monday or Tuesday after work, I got on Steam and saw Max, and I was like, dude, let's play Risk of Rain. And he was like, well, actually, I opened Risk of Rain by accident, but now that you mention it, let's play. And we played. And actually, I do have to tell you this awful, horrifying story. Actually, our friend Will, got online that night too. So Max and Will and I are in the penultimate level, and there was a shrine. There was a hit point shrine, right? So a shrine in that game is you either pay it money or you pay it some of your health for a chance to get an item. Well, what happened was we had activated the teleporter and defeated all the enemies in the level, so all we had to do was hit the teleporter to go to the next level. But there was still a health shrine that said if you give this health shrine 99% of your hit points, you get a chance at an item. And it was bugged, so it didn't go away. So the three of us just kept using this and regenerating our health over and over until we all had 2 full rows of items. Like we didn't just break the game, we shattered it. And
Mhm.
this is very exciting to me, right? Like this is like we're gonna go to the last level and just roll the boss. I had the golden key, which opens every treasure chest on the screen, was my item, and I had 5 fireworks, which fires missiles whenever you open a treasure chest. So just that alone, like, it gives you an idea. It's one of those, like, it's just awesome. So then I decide, well, I need to record this. This will be awesome. I open up XSplit Broadcaster. I hit record. Risk of Rain crashes immediately.
Mm.
I hit record. Risk of Rain crashed, and that was it. I did not get to play. They finished the game, obviously, but I was furious. I was furious. So I am no longer using XSplit Broadcaster. I am now using Open Broadcast or something that Will recommended.
Mhm.
And I ran that the next several games, and that was fine, no problem. But yeah, XSplit ruined my day. I was very upset.
It could be one of those things where like XSplit is probably good for like either most things or certain things, and then this other thing is probably good for other games, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've always used XSplit for the last couple of years, so it's not like I don't want to bash it, but that particular experience I was quite furious about. And then actually Tuesday or Wednesday, Max was on, and it was just Max and me playing. Both 2 or 3 runs we did. Every run he died on the last level. Every single one. Like we'd be fine the whole game. We're like trucking along. We're doing real great, and then we get to the last level and he just dies. He was just
I
like.
I really think Risk of Rain is best with 2 players. I do like the 3 and 4 player experience, but just the way that the items are doled out and the number of items that are available in each level and the amount of money that's available in each level, I feel like it's tuned best as a 2 player experience.
I agree to an extent. I think there's a little added difficulty with 3 players, and I kind of like that actually. Because the game does get. I mean, Max and I were just tearing through the game. Well, apparently, except for him on the last level of each run through, which I don't know what was going on with him. But yeah, I like that little extra difficulty. And if you can all, do it, then why not? I don't know.
So that's the first time you've played the game in a really long time, right?
Yeah, and it's just funny because last time we played it before now was like February or something. So,
Yeah, and what did you think of playing it again?
I mean, it's a great game, and they have added so much,
They did add a bunch. They added a bunch of items, and then they added those artifacts.
which surprises. Like, I mean, they released it's 2 people made this game, Risk of Rain. 2 people, 2 college kids. They released a game. It probably makes them a bunch of money. It was on Steam sale a bunch of times where it's like $1, so it's not making them a zillion dollars, but they're getting some income. And then they spend more time like tweaking it, which I didn't expect. So that was awesome. Risk of Rain is such a good game, and I honestly every time I hop on, I just want to play it because it's just I don't know, it's
a nice little bite-sized thing.
It's
you get
such
on,
a good game.
It is. You get on, you play it for 30 minutes, you can get through like an entire run. It's the same reason why I play Binding of Isaac. The exact same reason. Because you start to finish is like a 30 to 45 minutes experience, and then you're done.
Well, this coming weekend is Martin Luther King Jr. Day weekend extravaganza celebration.
Please tell me that you get off for Martin Luther King Day.
For the first time in my company's 80-year history, yes, I get it off.
That doesn't make any. What are we celebrating? I think it's insane. That's probably okay. I would love to get the day off. I don't get the day off.
Well, if you're around this weekend, I do have a 3-day weekend. I would like to spend some of that time playing Risk of Rain. I've been doing an extraordinary job of waking up on weekends before noon lately, so if you're on Saturday or Sunday morning especially, those are good times for me.
I'm up at like 6 a.m. What is wrong with you?
You have a baby.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I do not.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, you're kind of a baby.
I'm kind of a baby. So anyway, shout out to Risk of Rain. Also, in the next week, when I regain my voice, I'm going to be making a video about something. So there's that.
What a tease. Man, you must be in radio.
There is a video game related topic that I would like to kind of touch on, but it's very much like a one-person kind of like thing. It doesn't matter, but look forward to
Is it
a
how
little
bad
bit.
I am at video games? Are you
Pretty
going to
much.
make an entire video about how bad I am at video games?
There's just a bit of extra content that I'd like to start, putting out there, and so just keep an eye on our YouTube channel and keep an eye on unqualifiedgamers.com because I have a couple things planned for us in the near future. Mwahaha. But like seriously, me being sick has been hell, and I'm annoyed. I'm very annoyed. My voice, I'm talking with like the back of my throat so it doesn't actively irritate the front of my throat, which is in constant pain. So that's a thing. I actually went to the doctor. I went to the doctor for it.
That's big time.
Because I told the doctor, I'm like, I've had throat aches from sinuses and stuff, but like this is different. And he's like, it's a viral pharyngitis, which means I can't take any antibiotics.
Right.
And
you really just need to guzzle more semen.
I need to guzzle all of that, all the juices, all the sticky, wet juices that I can find need to go into my mouth orally via mouth ingestion. Mm-hmm. So what have you been putting in your mouth lately, John, in the video game world?
Have you heard of a game
Penis?
called...
Yes, I have. And I'm
know.
not surprised that that's what's been going in your mouth.
It's weird that he wrote that on a prescription pad for you to go get filled at your pharmacy. It's weird that
it would be weird, but
2 dicks a day. That's weird. I find that odd. Some doctors are weird though.
It would be weird, but the prescription was specifically for your pharmacy, so I think it's a Ponzi scheme. I don't know what that means, but it sounds Italian, which I vaguely am, so I'm gonna go with it. What you gonna do about it?
Yeah, that was really good. Shout out to all the Italian listeners out there. Have you heard of a game called The Swapper?
Oh God, is this?
No, it's not a snowballing game, which apparently is a game that you are excited about with your current ailment. That was legitimately where you were going, wasn't it? It totally was. I know you so well. Why
are you snowballing?
God, I know you so well. I literally made your joke for you 20 seconds before you made it. You should be ashamed of yourself. That or I should be ashamed of myself.
Why are you snowballing? Who are you snowballing? The Swapper. Yeah. My God, how many venereal diseases have you been exposed to?
I literally made your joke for you. I made your joke for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
God.
Have you heard of a
Anyone
game?
listening that hasn't seen Clerks needs to just search Clerks Snowball and you're good.
Okay. Have you heard of a game called The Swapper?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So it was a game that was, I want to say it was released last year. It was either last
Sounds like a mouthful.
It was either released last year or the year before, right? And
So 2014 or 2013.
right. And it is a puzzle platforming game. Very much akin to something like Braid. Okay? Now, we've known each other for a long time. What is my favorite first-person shooter?
Halo 4.
I've literally never talked about Halo 4 ever. That's your
Half-Life. Half-Life 3?
That's also,
Half-Life 3 confirmed.
okay. You're literally not. You're not going to help me at all.
It's
are
GoldenEye. It's GoldenEye.
You know the answer to this question.
All right, here's what I'm going to tell you. I should know the answer to this question.
It's Metroid Prime. So my
Yes. That's not a first-person shooter.
what is it?
It's an adventure game from a first-person perspective. But yes, I know that's like one of your favorite games
It is. Okay.
ever.
Okay. And what's not okay. Whatever. Why do I like that game?
Because it's a first-person shooter and it reminds you of Halo, your favorite game.
This is literally getting me nowhere. Okay.
Because of the exploration, I don't know. I can't hear you now, by the way. Your mic. There you are.
Yeah. I muted it because I want to get out of this fucking podcast. Okay. So the reason why I like that game, more than any other first-person shooter, is all about the atmosphere. It's all about the isolation of the planet that you're on, and I cannot remember the name of the planet right now. But that is something that like Metroid nails, right? Like in Super Metroid and in Metroid Prime, Samus lands on these planets and they do an awesome job through the environmental storytelling of basically making you feel like you were the only positive force on this planet at all, right? And I love that isolation. I love like the desolation of the place that you are in. And it's just, and I love and the other thing I love is the sci-fi aesthetic. I love it. Like sci-fi to me, I'm a fantasy fanboy through and through. I mean, I like your Dungeons and Dragons style. I like your magic and that kind of thing, but I will take a sci-fi world over a fantasy world any day if you're giving me the choice between the two, right?
Yeah.
So the Swapper is all about this incredible feeling of isolation on this space station for your character. So the game opens up with you basically crash landing. You're like a rescue team that goes to this like mining facility, and you're the only person that manages to make it to this facility alive. So you like crash land on this mining facility, and you very quickly realize that like there's nobody alive at all on this place. So you kind of explore the world a little bit, and it's in a 2D platformer, very much Super Metroid style. It's got this really cool muted color art style, very dark, and again, very strong feeling of isolation, right? And you eventually, within the first 10 minutes of the game, find this gun, which is later codenamed the Swapper, right? And the Swapper has a couple of functions, and this is literally the whole game. The Swapper can make up to 4 copies of your character, and it can allow you to swap between those copies. So your consciousness goes from one person, from your main character, to one of your copies, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, and every one of the copies moves with the direction that you are moving the control pad. So if you've got 4 characters lined up in a row, each of them will move at the same speed to the right if you walk to the right. So it opens up these really interesting puzzles where one character will be moving against a wall, and so one of the characters will be moving, and then 2 of your copies will be moving to the right, where that character that's against the wall will be stationary, and so that character will be like standing on a switch that opens a door that allows another character to move through that door as you move to the right. So there are these super interesting puzzles, and then you can swap between those characters. Because if your main character dies, if the characters who you are inhabiting dies, you die and restart the puzzle. Because your copies are going to die, and that's the interesting part. Like you oftentimes have to like sacrifice your copies of characters to progress as you're going, and you can always make up to 4 copies. And there's kind of an interesting story going on in the background about like which character are you? Because you swap your consciousness from the character you are inhabiting to the character whom you create. So like say you drop a character off a cliff and you take this character that's falling, and while they are falling, you create a copy of that character on the ground who is not falling, and you transfer your consciousness to that character. Somebody falls and dies in a pit. Who was that? Like,
it's like Dollhouse.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't watch that show. You know what it is? It's like The Prestige. It's like the end of The Prestige, which was a Nick Nolan North.
It was a pretty good movie.
Yeah, I liked that movie. Christopher Nolan. It was a Christopher Nolan movie. But there's a part at the end where Hugh Jackman gets a machine from Nikola Tesla that creates copies of himself, and he makes a comment that he never knew when he would kill, because he'd kill a copy at the end of every show. He never knew if he would be the copy that died or if he would be the guy who showed up at the top. It's got a really it's not complicated, but it's kind of a really existential story going on in the background. But it doesn't matter. The story doesn't matter. You don't have to like sci-fi at all to enjoy this game. What you have to like is puzzles. And the platforming puzzles are so good in the Swapper. They're so good. And the reason they're good is they just have these super simple mechanics. So they've got this mechanic of creating your clones and transferring your consciousness. But then they've got the mechanic of they've got a couple of different colored lights. And the lights alter the rules of the world. So there's a blue light that makes it so that you can't create a copy within the blue light. And then there's a red light that makes it so you can't transfer your consciousness from one copy to another in the red light.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's purple light that blends the two, and then you can't do either. And they just use those to great effect throughout the course of the whole game. And they do an awesome job of, they'll give you a puzzle, and you'll complete it, and it gives you that feeling. I got the same feeling in the Swapper as I did in Braid, where I would get to a puzzle. Sometimes I wouldn't understand it immediately, and I'd sit there and look at it for like 5 minutes, and I'd play around with it for 5 or 10 minutes. Eventually, I would solve it, and I'd feel smart. And I think that's the important part of a puzzle platformer, is that when you solve it, you feel smart when you do it. And there were some times where I would solve it, and I'd be like, there's no way that was the way I was supposed to solve it. Ultimately, it is totally the way you're supposed to solve it. But that's how like clever the design of the particular puzzle is, right?
Yeah.
So I'd solve the puzzle, and I'd be like, God, I feel so smart after like figuring out this great puzzle. And then instead of giving you another puzzle like immediately following the one you just solved, they'd give you a little bit of story. Like, there's this alien race of sentient rocks on this planet that the original miners found, and they brought them on board this ship. Like, you find that out at an early part of the game. And then they tell you kind of what happened with this sentient race of rocks as you continue on through the game. But that is punctuated with these increasingly difficult puzzles. And I just found I found the puzzles, you those first few puzzles do a great job of kind of acclimating your mind to how you have to think about the game as you're playing it.
Yeah.
And then they ramp that up using what you've learned from the previous puzzles to make the next puzzles both make sense but still be very challenging in terms of what you need to do. And then about 3/4 of the way through the game, they introduce a gravity inversion gameplay technique where you can run over these like panels that flip the gravity for whatever runs over them, which includes your clones. So you'll have some of your characters on top of the ceiling upside down and some of your characters on the floor. And that adds a completely new dimension to the puzzles. Super fun. And so I'd say there's about 20 puzzles overall. The game took me about 4 hours to complete, but it's got this super great story. It's got it's got what I would consider a perfect moment at the end of the game. It's literally the only choice in the entire game, and it happens at the end of the game, and it's perfect. It sums the game up very nicely, and it brings the story to its kind of logical conclusion. And just the way the puzzles are crafted, it is a great experience for the puzzle lover. So if you like platforming puzzles, like if Braid was your thing, if you played Braid and you liked it, check out the Swapper, because this game was not on my radar at all, and I overheard some people talking about it on one of the podcasts that I listened to, and I was like, I really liked Braid, and I think I actually really like puzzle platformers, but I don't think I've played a ton of them. So I just decided, hey, I got it on sale for $5, and I think you can get it on sale all the time. I think it's always on sale on Steam, and it was actually on PS Plus last month for free. So if you're a PS Plus member, you could buy it for free, or you could download it for free on PS Plus back in December. So you may have it, listener, if you were a PS Plus member. And I got it, and I was like, holy crap. Just even like a half an hour into the game, I was hooked. I basically played through it in 3 days with the video game time that I had. Totally an awesome little experience to have. I loved it. So if you can get your hands on the Swapper, if you like puzzles, check out the Swapper. It was really good. It's all about the atmosphere, it's got great music and stuff in it, too.
I will probably buy this game because it sounds like my kind of cup of tea.
Yeah, and you really liked Braid, right?
I loved Braid.
I really think you'd get a kick out of this then. I really do. Because it's totally in that style because Braid had that time rewinding mechanic, and that was its big thing. This has this swapping mechanic, so the puzzles that they can... I think Braid had one level with where you could make a duplicate shadow of yourself, but it's nothing in terms of complexity compared to what this one can do. And requires you to do.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. And even the story, you said that's not the strength or whatever, but even the story sounds really interesting.
No, the story's super interesting, but it's not. I wouldn't come to this game for the story. I would come to this game for the gameplay, because the puzzles are phenomenal. They're really good.
Sure. Yeah. The puzzles sound awesome.
Yeah, it happens to have kind of a pretty interesting existential story going on in the background.
Yeah, and listener, if you have played this game or you're interested in that kind of sci-fi storyline, The Prestige is a good film for that, although you kind of spoiled the ending a little bit, so if you haven't seen it, then sorry. But Dollhouse, also, the Joss Whedon show, was on Fox for 2 seasons. Fox kind of made Joss Whedon Foxify it for the first few episodes, so there's a lot of fast cars and hot girls. But once you get past that, especially in the second season, it gets really deep into a lot of those questions, because Dollhouse is about people transferring consciousness basically from person to person, and traits from person to person, like kind of Matrix style. So it's a really interesting show. And I loved the show, especially the second season. So that sounds like something along those lines. So, I'm not going to go back and watch Dollhouse again, but this sounds like a nice little fix in terms of that whole, like, what is self kind of thing, like what is consciousness, what is physical versus like kind of what is mental. I think that's really cool stuff.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I mean, you are a 2D sprite. It's not like it's not like it examines it in a. It's not like it makes you ask a bunch of deep questions about yourself. It's more like this is kind of a cool sci-fi story going on. Like, what the hell is this gun? Like, what race of aliens have they uncovered at this place? Like, it's kind of terrifying because of how isolated your character is, and because of what you find out happened to this space station.
Sure, yeah. And and the whole isolation thing, I mean, I wanted to say this earlier, but that's also Risk of Rain. That's also one of my favorite parts about that game.
Yeah, you crash land on an alien planet.
Yeah, but the way the aesthetic of the game is designed is very much like Super Metroid, where you just look like you look at the screen and you're like, I am the only good force, positive force, sentient being on this planet, really.
Yeah, and literally everything is out to kill me. Everything is here to kill me.
Pretty much, yeah. Except for the animals.
No, they're pretty bad too.
No, I meant in Super Metroid.
Yeah, you should probably kill them. There's a lot of donations that go to killing them.
We actually had a question from on our YouTube channel. Yeah, are we done talking about the Swapper? Because I'm gonna buy it. It sounds good.
Yeah, we're done talking about it. It's a light. It's a not light, but it's a short game. So like if you want to get through a game in just a couple of days, it's totally a great game for that. And like I said, you can get it for a song on Steam, I'm sure, during one of the sales. It's really, really good. It's really, really good. Really good.
No, I've written it down. It's on my list. So a couple episodes ago we talked about, actually last week I think, we talked about Awesome Games Done Quick 2015, the charity speedrun marathon for charity. That goes on for 7 days. It ended up raising over $1.1 million for the Prevent Cancer Foundation. So congratulations to everybody that did that. I didn't donate as much this year as I did for Summer Games Done Quick, but I think it was either like $45 or $70 or something. I don't know. But I do like to throw a pretty hefty, like a decent amount of money at this thing because it's so good. Like it is my favorite. Like it's like when I get home, I put it on my TV. I make dinner while I'm watching it. I eat while I'm watching it. I sit there and text friends and just watch it like all night. Like it is my entertainment for a week.
As an aside, did you watch the Tetris speedrun?
Oh my god, yes.
Oh my god. It was one of the most incredible things I have ever seen.
And the sick/depressing part is that in Japan, they can all do that.
Yeah, every Japanese person. That's what I heard. I heard that you're just born that way in Japan.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. No, but I mean, the guy even said, he's like, oh, in Japan, I mean, like, there are 100 guys that can do this, and you can put them all in a room, and there are a dozen guys that can get to like even further of a level. It's just ridiculous over there. But yeah, the Tetris. Go watch the Tetris Grandmaster run. Any Tetris speedrun's pretty impressive. But or challenge run or whatever. But during these marathons, one of the big finales is Super Metroid is always played on the last day. I actually missed the race. Did you see it?
No.
I need to watch that on YouTube because I love the races. The races are my favorite part of these marathons, pretty much, except for I want to be the Boshi, or Boshi or whatever. But throughout the entire marathon, you hear the people reading donations, and a lot of people say, oh, and by the way, kill the animals or save the animals. That's because at the end of Super Metroid, when you're escaping from the planet, there's a room that you can visit. It's an optional room, and if you go into this room, there are these little tiny animal creatures, and they run out of the room. If you go to this room, they run out, and then you go to your ship, and then in the last screen of the game, pretty much, when the planet explodes, because apparently the entire planet has to explode when Mother Brain dies, I don't know, whatever. When the planet explodes, Samus's ship flies away as usual. But if you visit this room and quote unquote save the animals, you see a little blinking blip kind of just like fly away from the planet as well in the distance, and that means that you saved the
You see
animals.
them escape. You see them
You
escape.
see them escape. So the thing is, though, the spirit of this marathon is speed, right? Like every second is essential.
Right.
People are splitting hairs like as much as you can to save fractions of seconds.
I mean,
to
they save frames. They save frames of,
They literally
of
save
the video
frames.
game.
So you can put your donation towards saving the animals or killing the animals, which means that if Save the Animals wins, then during this Super Metroid run, the runner or runners have to save the animals, which means that it costs more time. I don't even know who won this year, but at one point, Save the Animals was up $30,000. Last at SGDQ, Summer Games Done Quick, Kill the Animals won, but it's neck and neck pretty much until the last minute. And I believe last year it was $75,000 or $80,000 of donations specifically went to Save or Kill the Animals. So it's a running theme throughout the entire marathon. It is like the most well-known donation incentive goal. It's constantly mentioned throughout the marathon. Anyway, I tell this story because a listener on our last episode asked, he wants to know if John and Cody, what do we think of Save or Kill the Animals? So, John,
I mean,
it sounds like you say kill the animals.
you want to save that time. Like, you got to save that time.
Yeah. A lot of people say save the frames, kill the animals. I agree. I say kill the animals. Because I want to see the fastest time possible.
Really, I want to see the most suffering possible in most worlds, both fictional and real. So
Sure, yeah, sure.
yeah, and so the animals waiting for their death in a locked room sounds much more appealing to me, personally,
So
as you waiting for death in your locked room due to low blood sugar.
So the Unqualified Gamers, we say kill the animals. Did you donate? Do you ever donate money to this, or are you just a cheap asshole?
I have. I did not this time, but I have.
It is hard.
I don't know. I didn't get to watch it as much as I have in the past at this past speedrunning marathon. So I feel like I had more time. I feel like I had more time last summer. With the new job that I currently have, I technically have about the same amount of free time. It's doled out differently in the week, and so I feel like I have less, but it's because I'm doing like more family stuff.
Sure. And that's good. That's good for you.
Oh, it's great. It's awesome. I actually really, really like it. But it means that video games are kind of taking more of a back burner.
Of course, as there wants to do.
And I have to sleep earlier in the night, which is crazy. Like sleeping at like 10 o'clock at night. What the hell is that?
You went to bed at like 8 the other night.
I was really tired. I was legitimately exhausted.
It's pretty ridiculous.
But if I'm waking up at 6 o'clock every day, I mean the 10 o'clock bedtime makes a lot of sense to me.
It does. It does. Well, that's great. So we've talked about swapping, which is just.
You should get the swapper. You should swap with another man, and then you should get the swapper.
So I'm not doing that.
Which part?
Anything that you say, basically ever. We're wrapping. I know a couple minutes early, which is okay. Next week I will be much higher energy and much more better.
Mm-hmm.
However, until then, is there we haven't done a lot of talk about John and Cody time the last 3 weeks, so we know the holidays went well for both of us. We're still alive. We've recapped, but but in general, as a quick little check-in, so our listeners know what's going on in our lives. You're doing fine. Your new job is going well. You're settling in and all that. It's good.
I am. A pharmacist job is done mostly with a computer. And every pharmacy uses different computers, and so the biggest challenge between changing jobs, I think I would argue for most people in my profession is to adjust to a new computer system. So they all because the I mean we all the laws require us to do the same things as pharmacists in terms of like what we're doing. It's just how you do them. And so sometimes some are a little more. Uh, I had 4 years of experience with one type of system, and so I was amazing at it. And then I'm literally moving to a completely different kind of system, and I'm no longer amazing at it. In fact, I kind of feel like a caveman.
Yeah, I feel you. I felt the same way when I got Smash Brothers 3DS.
I think
Because,
yeah, and we can really that's an equatable
because going from a
situation.
GameCube controller to essentially a 3DS controller, like that is a significant difference.
Yeah, I would say that your situation might be even more difficult now that I think about it.
Yeah,
Really, I don't
and
even know what I'm complaining about.
I mean, when I got the Wii U controller, like the game, I at least had the C stick equivalent, so I had a right stick. But 3DS one, man, you don't have a C stick. You don't have GameCube controller buttons. I mean, like, what is that? Like, how do you even survive in this rough world?
I don't know
You
how
know?
you did it, frankly. So I'm sorry I even brought up the fact that there was a challenge between going between pharmacy computer systems. Now that I think about the difficulty and the aggravation
The
and
aggro.
and the adjustment that you had to make from changing from a full Smash Brothers controller to a 3DS.
Yeah,
So
and
that's far harder.
it was farter is what you meant to say as farter.
I'm really impressed by you.
What part?
Well, it's not the hair.
My hair is glorious. It's a madman thing, all right? I'm sorry you're uncultured in your suburban lifestyle, all right? But I have the madman swoosh going on. I could work in advertising and smoke cigarettes and degrade women and be really good at all those things.
It's really weird. You do most of those things.
I cannot argue with any of what you just said because I wasn't listening to what you said at all.
So you'll find us here next time, listener. With my schedule being like a normal-ish schedule, I should be able to record every week. Like that should be a thing that happens now, which is kind of exciting.
You should, and yet we're recording this 2 days late. So,
I think that was your fault this week, though.
no.
Yep. No, that's what I'm going to stick with.
Well, you're wrong.
So,
Um,
listener, you can thank Cody for this episode to come out a little late this week.
that's
Thanks.
great.
Thanks.
And listener, we never ever do this at the end of an episode, like literally ever. But if you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up or leave a comment. Um, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna say please subscribe, blah blah blah, because algorithms or whatever. But if you did enjoy this even marginally, and you do give us like a thumbs up or a comment, it actually like it helps us essentially. I won't get into the nitty gritty, but I would super very much appreciate that. Just a couple thumbs up in comments, even if you're just saying like, "Hey, nice job," or like, "Hey, listened," or "Listened, hated it." I'd prefer you don't say that, but those are super helpful. If you're listening on the website unqualifiedgamers.com, feel free to comment and maybe share. It helps us out a lot. It's we're giving you free content. There's your free way to kind of pay for it, I guess. I don't know. It'd be really cool. That's all. But yeah, all of our stuff is at unqualifiedgamers.com, and I will probably spend several episodes not telling you to do those things now.
Could you
'Cause,
drink some honey tea or something? You sound like shit.
you know,
God, you sound like shit.
remember that time that you were like, I'm going to do all the talking, and then you didn't do any of the talking? Like, I reviewed Risk of Rain on this podcast. I talked about Awesome Games Done Quick. What did you even do?
I swapped.
Don't ever say that again.